Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video we're going to look at nuclear revenge. Let's just jump straight into it. Yeah, not safe for work content. Brilliant. I blew up a romance scammer's life. This one is fresh and still unfolding, but it's already hit an explosive level. Some details intentionally vague. Context: I'm a woman in my 30s with a reasonably good corporate type job in a field with lots of room for growth. Sorry, I'm itchy. And I'm recently back into the dating scene after a decade. I'm kind of a would be a 10 if she lost 30 pounds looking girl. You think highly of yourself, don't you? I would still be a 3 even if I did lose 30 pounds. Beautiful face, but a bit chubby. But I never have issues getting a date, lol. I'm not well off, but I'm stable and I have a bit of spending money. I live in a large multicultural city and my ex was an immigrant. I'm open to dating people of any origin. Okay, so why do you need to point that out? Is that how far we've all fallen as a society? Why should it matter? If it wasn't abundantly clear, this bit about my parents is a joke and only speaks to his failure to select an appropriate victim. I don't care what people think about how I look. Okay, fair, sorry. What happened was, a few weeks ago I met a very charming man from Latin American country, only a couple of years younger than me. Seemed very sweet, cuddly, intelligent, family oriented, emotionally available, educated in a good profession back home in his country, and had a lot in common with me. Chemistry seemed amazing inside and outside the bedroom. He was honest that he was in my country on a tourist visa, was hoping to stay. I made it clear I wouldn't be able to help him with that, but if we'd had a fun summer fling whilst he was here, if he managed to stay or come back, only then would we consider a real relationship. Then the other shoe dropped. A couple weeks and 4 dates in, during a text conversation about my work, he asked me to be a sugar mummy. I initially laughed and assumed it was a joke. He kept pushing and clearly said it wasn't. Of course, feeling insulted by this, I went off on him. He maintained it as a serious ask until I hit a nerve with my complaints about how embarrassed he should be to ask me that. Then he got angry and insulted me for thinking he was serious about it. No apology for being hurtful to me. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. Obviously what I did next was take screenshots and cry about it to my closest friends. I was hurt that I was fooled into thinking he liked me and that he thought I needed to pay for a man. My friends started the fuse on what happened next. One of my friends started snooping more in his online presence. When she said romance scammer, I was thinking of the catfish people. Today we found about 6 different Instagram accounts that were him using different variations of his name and different photos of himself all uploaded in batches. On Facebook, a similar pattern. All very scammy and suspicious looking. He'd been foolish enough on one of his profiles, though, to follow and tag the employer that he was working for illegally on his tourist visa in my country. So I contacted another close friend in a local law enforcement agency that works with immigration. She looked up his file. He had a wife and daughter at home. I released the hounds after that. The friend who helped me investigate online made several group chats on multiple platforms with all of his family, immediate and extended, and friends. She released all the screenshots as well as a rant about how shameful it was. As they started blocking her, she added more people. I found his sister's phone number. She sent her messages on there too. At what point does nuclear revenge become just harassing people? What's his sister got to do with it? Everyone he knows, including his wife, know he's unfaithful and trying to take advantage of women. 30 minutes after the online bombardment started, I got a rude message from him about how I should be smart enough to know he was joking, he doesn't need to sell himself. I didn't reply. Next step. Online immigration reporting form with all the info we found: work info, employer name and address, his home address, full name, date of birth, photos, screenshots submitted to working. Usually these reports take months to review, if at all, but I gave the file number to my law enforcement friend. 2 days later, law enforcement officers visited him at home. They found him with a phone number that was issued to a local resident. All his roommates also had numbers issued to the same person, a direct link to the employer. He received a caution for trying to scam me, a no contact order, and the flag on his immigration file that based on his country of origin will likely mean he could never return, as well as a strict warning to not work without authorization. His roommates also received warnings. His employer received a visit next. They found significant proof that they'd been employing him illegally, as well as multiple other people. Their investigation is still ongoing, but so far they are likely to receive tens of thousands in fines or possible jail time. Whew. This guy isn't getting deported because the government would need to pay for it and proceedings take longer than his remaining visa time, but now he's upgraded from a flagged file to a multi-year ban on re-entry to my country. If he bothers me again though, he will be deported as well. Hope he enjoys going back to his angry wife and the ridicule from everyone he knows. Wife's probably in on it too, don't you think? Maybe? Grandma's revenge. Okay, so whatever, I don't care, yada yada. I immediately have to write this down because it's the most amazing thing I've ever heard. I was visiting my grandma and grandpa to celebrate a bunch of summer birthdays together, but when I pulled up to their house, the plot to the right was completely empty. As in, no stones, no base, no debris, just slightly overgrown grass. Grass where there used to be a house. When the hellos were said and the party started, I absolutely had to know what happened, so I went to ask my grandparents. And goodness gracious, I was not expecting the rollercoaster of a story they told me. A couple years ago, my grandparents had some very unpleasant neighbours. Loud at all hours, trash in the yard, arguing with other people in the street, just absolute nuisances. It was a husband and wife. and their adult son who would come and go irregularly. The wife would get into arguments with anyone about anything, and the husband would physically intimidate the people who spoke up for themselves. They weren't sure what exactly the deal was with the son, but it couldn't have been anything good, as it was well known he had been to the county jail more than a few times. The house apparently reflected the tenants, as it looked awful. It was sagging and dilapidated, loose beams and peeling paint, but nothing was ever done about it due to the guy who rented out the place being a slumlord. We'll get to him later. It all came to a breaking point one night when my grandparents returned home to find their back door smashed in and some of my grandpa's guitars missing. Now, Grandpa loves his music and has been singing and playing his whole life, so safe to say those guitars are not only very memorable to him, but damn expensive too. They of course went to the police, and after some digging, they found the guitars had been sold at a pawn shop or someplace by the son. They couldn't get the guitars back, unfortunately, but I believe my grandparents were fairly compensated since the guitars were insured. Given how expensive the guitars were, the theft was absolutely a felony, and the son once again ended up in jail. After that, the neighbours would harass my grandparents through the fence or on their porch, meaning it was difficult for them to even sit outside. They would call them foul names, throw trash over the fence, and the husband would still try to get physical. Now, while my grandpa is a very chill and mellow guy, my grandma will take shit from no one, especially not jerks like these. So what did she do? She got the house condemned. It was easy for her to do. She called the local authorities and they came and did an inspection, though it was clear by the outside of the house that it hadn't been properly maintained for a long time. One call led to more calls, and the property was deemed unfit to live in, which forced the rude neighbours to move out. I'm not sure what happened to them or where they went, but supposedly they were putting a nearby hotel by the slumlord until the house could be fixed. Now, enter the slumlord. Of course his tenants told him who had reported the house, so of course he's upset with my grandparents. Rather than fix the house though, he gets aggressive the first day he's there, yelling at my grandparents about how they're idiots for reporting him and how they've cost him a bunch of money, he's going to sue them, and on and on. It gets to the point where across the street neighbours called the local police to come and defuse the situation, which they do. A few weeks pass and my grandma hasn't seen the slumlord or anyone around to fix the house. Not being one to let things go easily, grandma started making frequent calls to a bunch of services, reporting the house's lack of progress. Each time the slumlord's truck would appear for a day and then leave without changing a thing. Grandpa said he would block in their driveway, but since they stay home most of the time, it wasn't a major issue. Grandma disagreed. Finally, my grandma had complained enough that the officials came out and condemned the house for demolition. This had two major effects. First, the rude neighbours were now practically homeless, since as soon as they and the landlords ran out of money to pay for the hotel, they'd be stranded. Secondly, the slumlord still had to pay a shitload of fines for the state of the house. The rest is more his fault than my grandma's actions, but he would refuse to pay and refuse to show up in court, leading to a warrant being put out for his arrest. A few months ago, the demolition teams came and tore down the place, leaving the lot perfectly barren. They even removed the driveway, so now it just looks like an extension of the side yard. But my grandma looked very pleased with herself as she finished her story. I love her so much. Don't kill your neighbour's dogs. My crazy, antisocial, elderly aunt lives in the mountains of West Virginia. Now that country road song is in my head. My aunt is a mean, bitter old woman who was suspected of shooting and killing her ex-husband, but the cops could never pin it on her. Years ago, she bought a small home on some land that borders the land of another family in a small, narrow, isolated, forested mountain valley. The other family had been living there a long time. They just wanted to be left alone, like most people who choose to live in a remote mountain location in West Virginia. My aunt bought chickens and started to let them run around, unfenced on her property, and the neighbours' dogs were very interested in those chickens. The chickens would roam around and go over the neighbour's property. No, I don't like this one. One day, without warning, she killed her neighbour's dogs for killing one of her chickens, and only one of the dogs was killed on her property. The other one was shot dead in the neighbour's front yard. The neighbours had small kids and they loved those dogs. My aunt walked over with a shotgun and told the neighbours that they had better never get another chicken-killing dog again, or that she would kill them too. The neighbours didn't take too kindly to her killing the dogs, and her actions with the shotgun, waving it around and threatening them, was over the top. This lady better die. That better be how the story ends. The aunt dies. But they didn't call the cops, knowing that my crazy aunt, who had a reputation for being violent, was likely to be arrested, and if she was arrested, she would just be quickly released from jail and be back. So a couple of weeks later, when my aunt went into town, her home's back window was broken and a bottle of burning oil and gas was thrown into her home. By the time the fire department had finally arrived, the home was a complete loss, and every dog and possibly ex-husband killing shotgun and fire what annoying sentence. Firearm my aunt owned, along with all of her unworthy possessions, were incinerated. The home was a total loss, along with the chicken. The chickens didn't deserve that. The neighbours didn't see anything, and the sheriff's department couldn't prove anything, so my aunt had a long list of enemies. She didn't work and was too poor and lazy to have her home owner insurance, so she had to move, and her son eventually bought her a cheap rundown trailer in town. Those of us who knew my aunt figured she got what she deserved. Moral of the story is, don't screw with a mountain man's dog. The comments. You shot 2 of my animals when a warning would have been enough. You then came onto my property and waved a gun at me and my children. I'm a man of peace, but she would have died on the spot of lead poisoning. However, this method is also acceptable. And the one that replies says, our emotions quickly cloud our judgment and makes us want to choose the rashest decision, when if we think calmly and with zen, we could make the decision that creates the most suffering. Ex cheated with her cousin. Huh? And expected to save face, I think not. For context, it was her cousin-in-law. Okay. Let's start this story by saying this happened 12 years ago. I'm now happily married with 3 children, regret absolutely nothing. I was with my new ex for 3 years. I had noticed that she was being extremely controlling. I was expected to give every little detail of my day and tell her my schedule in advance. If I deviated from that, she would be very upset. She chalked it up to just bad feelings she was having and shrugged it off as her paranoia for past relationships or infidelity. I had never once cheated or strayed, and I never gave her a reason to act like this. It felt unbecoming of my fiancé to act in such a way. This is where it gets juicy. After she had asked for my schedule to make plans, as mine tend to be more hectic than hers, I noticed she was texting someone. In my line of work, if I put in more than 40 hours, I have the ability to take time off at will as long as the work is completed at a later date. I was very good friends with her brother and still am. We laugh about this to this day, and he actively reminds her of it. I messaged him stating, why can't people write properly? I messaged him stating I wanted to do something special for her a little bit earlier than our anniversary to make sure it was a special surprise. They both worked in the same fabrication facility. He was a fabricator and she a shipping manager. He was kind enough to let me know her schedule. That's where the discrepancy falls into place. Without my knowledge, she was foregoing overtime. She worked 12-hour shifts Monday through Friday, with the exception of Wednesday, where she would only work half a day. She had been taking Wednesdays off right around the time that she started getting extremely controlling. Lucky for me, I had stacked several days of leisure time, so taking a Wednesday off for me was not an issue. A few days go by and Wednesday's here. I put on my work gear and leave for work. I was expecting her to leave as our apartment complex had 2 exits on the same road I could see directly across from a shopping centre, so I parked my car near the back and waited. After about an hour, I noticed a very specific red Mustang with a very specific decal on the back window. It was her cousin by marriage. I had also done my due diligence to take an old laptop, which we kept on our desk in office. He sets up the webcam, basically. Giving her the benefit of the doubt, I thought he might be dropping something off or coming over to assist her or something, as family sometimes does. Sure enough, a message came through, so I remote into my laptop. He walks through the door, and without skipping a beat, she unbuttons his shirt and begins kissing him. I created a URL link for the live stream. As she was preoccupied, we had a family group text and a friend group text. They were both part of it, but at the current time, they were currently indisposed, didn't even look at our phones. They didn't even wait. They could have gone into the bedroom, but no, they decided to get freaky deaky right there on the couch. I sent the link off to the friend group chat, the family group chat. Within minutes, I'm getting non-stop calls from friends and family alike. There was no turning back. She was getting blown up, but she was ignoring her phone. Not until the 4th or 5th call came through did they decide to take a break. For context, the state I live in allows recording of personal property regardless of occupancy. I was the only one on the lease. She wasn't allowed to be on the lease because of poor credit. I still... With these stories, okay, yeah, it's legal, but is it... It's not moral and ethical to cheat. And, not but... And 2 things can be true at the same time. And it's not moral or ethical to live stream someone having sex to their family. Like, their mum don't need to see them chowing down on dick. They don't need to see that. It's not right. Like, there's one way of catching people out. Take some pictures, but it's not right. But people on Reddit are insane. Like, I've always thought cheating's a horrible thing to do to another person. I still think that. However, on Reddit, I do feel like people need to just go outside and touch grass. It's a horrible thing to go through and it's a bad thing to do to someone. But sometimes, like, people on Reddit go really, really, really overboard with it. Like, to a point where it always just... You know when some people go so OTT and it just feels quite insincere? For example, Onision used to say in his videos things like, cheaters should all... If there is a hell, they should all burn there eternally. And it's like, really? My dude, really? I noticed, like, he was so OTT with the stuff he would say about cheaters, and yet, what did he do in his marriage? Like, and I'm saying this because, spoiler alert, I watched The Fall of the House of Usher, enjoyed it, thought it was really good. However, man, I didn't see these posts myself, but I saw people talking about it on the subreddit. People were saying that because, spoilers, is it Frederick? Yeah, Frederick and his wife goes to the party. She doesn't do anything and she's quite out of place when she's there. massive red flag to go to a sex party in the first place, obviously, but she's not doing anything. She's feeling very awkward about being there, and then the acid rain things happen, blah blah blah. Anyway, in his episode, he pulls out she's the only survivor of the acid bath, and he goes a bit crazy from it. It's like, why were you there in the first place? And pulls out all of her teeth and disfigures her, and she's already got like severe chemical burns all over her body. And I didn't see people defending it, but I saw people saying that people on Reddit were defending his actions because she cheated on him. Like, it's okay to methodically sit there and pull out someone's teeth with pliers one by one, which sometimes people have like crimes of passion where in the moment they're so angry and they can't regulate their emotions properly. They do something a bit stupid in the moment, which still isn't great. But there's a difference between like in the moment your emotions getting the better of you, and then sitting there calculated pulling someone's teeth out one by, because that's gotta be hard to do. You know, I've not had my wisdom tooth removed, but my boyfriend has, and he told me like they're yanking on that thing for like minutes. You know, so it's got to be quite. And he's sitting there, and you know, you don't see it, but like it's all implied, and you see like she has no teeth afterwards. And apparently there were people on Reddit, I'm assuming children, being like, well, it's fine that he did that. It's understandable because, you know, she cheated on him. Similar thing that I brought up in my main channel Black Mirror video. The guy drink driving and being a menace and assaulting people because he's suspected of his wife having an affair. And so many grown-ass men on Reddit were being like, it's understandable. It's fine. You could argue that his drink driving and the assault he did on that man was actually more crimes of passion and in the moment than what Frederick did to his wife, who didn't even physically cheat on him yet. So sometimes it is a little bit like touch some grass. As soon as someone does something like bad to you, you don't need to throw all ethics and morality out the window, you know? Me saying this, the call she had picked up from was her cousin's mother, who she was banging. She answers the phone on speaker, and I kid you not, the first words out of the mother's mouth were, "Stop sleeping with my son." They both became rigid, and she began to stutter over her words, saying, "What are you talking about?" The mother then divulged that there was a live feed of them sent out by me to her family. She grabbed every pillow off the couch and covered herself up. The cousin staggered off, trying to put on his pants and shoes, just to trip himself up and bang his head off my coffee table, leaving it with a divot. By this time, I had made my way to the front of the apartment complex. I was there to greet the adulterer as he came out the front exit. He froze and began to cry, apologising profusely. I'm not going to lie, what happened afterwards wasn't the best moment of my life. What happened afterwards wasn't my best moment. I nearly got into legal trouble if it weren't for the fact he was trespassing on private property. Let's just say I had a cast for 6 weeks and he wasn't in any family photos for months. I went up to the apartment where she was now fully clothed and crying inconsolably. I asked her if it was snot or jizz on her face. Then I told her not to answer because it didn't matter anyway. I gave her 1 hour to remove all her belongings, as again, everything in the apartment was mine except for clothes, some makeup and a few kitchen utensils. Her mother would not let her move in, as she was just filled with embarrassment. Same for her brothers, and the cousin's mother kicked the son out. Rumours spread around our town very quickly, and for lack of better words, she was untouchable. Dude, what happened next? She wouldn't give up the spare key. While I was at work one day, she tried to take my cat and get it euthanized. Okay, I hate this woman. Go ahead. Like put pictures of her everywhere then. If she's trying to kill a cat. See, my morals and ethics went out the window, but that's because a living being, its life was being threatened to end. Like she was trying to kill another being. That's when my ethics go a bit out the window. Other things, touch a bit of grass. Yes, that is the end of this video. That is the Nuclear Revenge subreddit. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you like, comment, subscribe. I'm putting up new videos every day this month for Vlogmas. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bye.